Go ahead.
Go ahead, no, you go.
Have a good night. Thank you. So you guys spot the NY Predator Department in the in an unmarked vehicle. Oh, look, another NY Predator Department officer. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. Look at him. What's she looking at? Oh, cause she got a red bag. Red bag. Look, look. You know what I gotta do too? Oh yeah. Let's see how long he gonna stay at his watch. You got the middle finger. You see, I told you guys. So the woman sitting across from me with the cardboard box, as soon as we were getting ready to cross the light to come to this bus stop, she opened up the cardboard box in front of me, right? Again, the homeless theme. You know, I talk about the homeless theme, right? And they go to the wheelchair theme. What I say, they always gotta find new people, right? Why? Because, you know, they disable me and they think that only disabled people are in wheelchairs. I mean, how ridiculous is that, right? But, you know, when people are simple-minded, you know, they get them to believe anything. When people are believers, they get them to believe anything. And when I say simple-minded, meaning that they're ignorant because they don't know any better. So you see, when I talk about use the color, they use a combination of colors. So she got a red and black bag, right? You hear the sirens, right? Again, I want you guys to see. So what do? Who do they send? They send a sample, right? they send a sample, right? Well, like I said, I'm not afraid of them. I don't care how big they are. Remember, the bigger they are, the harder they fall, right? Okay? So anyhow, welcome back to a brand new video of the Target Individual Program, Target Individual Experience, Target Individual Programming. So again, the reason why I wanted to show you guys a reminder of what Pam's apartment looked like because of what she said to me tonight, right? And I told her, I said, I told you this was going to happen. I told you that if you don't start paying attention to our children, that if you don't start taking their schooling seriously, this is going to happen. And as long as you continue to disrespect me, at every time I talk to the kids, like you don't think that as a man that I can't raise my voice. I told her, I said, you are not going to do that to me. You are not going to sissify me, as Dr. Khalid Muhammad said. You know, this is who they want. They want soft-spoken black men, right? But meanwhile, they're being yelled at by their bosses, by these white men, by these Hispanic men, by even the Asian dudes, right? They yell too, but they don't feel threatened by that. They feel threatened by black men raising their voice and calling them out, right? They feel threatened by structure and discipline and order, right? So, you know, I said to Pam, I said, you know, you have her in therapy for what? You have her in therapy for what? She doesn't need therapy at this point. No, she said to me, she's like, you know, you should seek therapy, bro, because you got issues. You know what I'm saying? Now, here's a woman, you look at her apartment, who ignores every time I say to her to clean her apartment, and she gets upset at me, and then she curses at me, and she tells me to get out. But I got problems, and I need to see a therapist. I told her, I said, I was in therapy for a decade, okay? Therapy didn't help me until I started to do the research and understand what was being done to me. Until I realized that how this system is set up to exploit black people and using psychiatry as a tool to not only try to discredit us, but to take away our autonomy, right? To ignore us, to belittle us, right? And then they can always say, you know, it's all in your head. I said, it isn't until I started learning what was actually happening to me that I started to have a correct way of thinking, because I realized how I was being conditioned, okay? Then she goes, well, you know, and listen, in therapy, you know, she goes, daddy's is being a menace in the house. And I'm like, first of all, no 12-year-old child is going to say a parent is being a menace, okay? That's words that she's using because that's what she's been conditioned to use. You know, words like menacing and stuff like that, right? What does that remind you of? Talk about stereotypical ideas by white supremacists when it comes to black men, right? So when you have Sambos and Sambinas, Negropean, male and female, right, who grew up in with no structure, no discipline, right? They don't want that. So they raise children with no structure, no discipline. And we repeat the cycle. I keep saying it's a reason why they don't want black men in the home. It's a reason why they attack particular certain type of black people because of our bloodline, right? But black people are so simple, Negropeans, as I said, Negropeans are so simple-minded that they don't think, right? That they don't think that, they don't say to themselves, hey, what happened to the royal bloodlines of the kings and queens of Africa, of Europe? What happened to them? Because we know we had, African royal bloodlines that ruled Italy, Spain, Portugal, right? We know that, even though it's history that they've hid from us. Okay? What happened to those people? What happened to their descendants? It's interesting because today I had posted an article about that on Facebook. You know what I'm saying, on my other Facebook account, right? My backup Facebook account. And so tonight I was reminded of that, right? So like I said, so Pav says to me, oh, you need therapy, bro. I said, how I need therapy? And you don't need therapy? You don't need therapy. You ignore this thing. You ignore our children. You have them in the house all night by themselves, right? And I said, how is it that you don't think about the concept that, hey, you know what? It is not a good idea to leave children in the house, but particularly overnight. Like I said, safety issue, they don't feel safe, so they'll stay up all night. Then on top of that, when they're bored, they will get into mischief. This is why you need adult supervision. But a lot of our women, all right, some even including our mothers, okay? Including our mothers, as much as we love our mothers, right? But they themselves did not understand how they were being manipulated by the system. Right? They themselves, so they make decisions based off of their feelings, their emotions, not what's best for their children, right? But what's best for them and their feelings, their emotions, their belief system. Okay? So again, you tell me I have issues. We all have issues. That's what I said. We all have issues. The point is, I don't ignore my issue. Okay? I don't ignore my issue. When you understand how the American system works, the white supremacy system works, particularly the use of psychiatry as a tool to discredit black people, right? To profit off of black people, to exploit black people, right? Particularly black men. Okay? I have had therapists, and all they want to do is to prescribe me pills. The minute I start talking about what was happening, prescribe me pills. Oh yeah, such and such. Take a pill. No feedback, nothing. I'll talk, I'll say certain things. They'll listen, but no feedback. That's the American psychiatric system when it comes to black men. And remember, I was talking about this, only 4% of therapists in America are black people. All right? And you think about that. The majority of those black psychologists, they're more interested in having the big house, driving the nice car, the title of being a therapist and such, but they're not at the business of reversing the negative psychological programming done to our people. They're not about that. All right? And I'm not saying all. The very few who are, right? The very few who are, we won't go to them because we don't want to hear the truth. Just like you have these female therapists that said, these marriage therapists, they said, when it comes to black women, it's all good when we can talk about the men and we can point to what the man did wrong. But the minute that we go to them now and trying to hold them accountable, they stop showing up. They stop showing up because they are conditioned to think that what they're doing is not wrong. Right? Because why? Because they're being rewarded in some way. And our brothers need to start to understand how we are being used against our women also. Okay? You as a man, you dating a woman with young children. Okay? And that woman is out with you all day and all night, and not even once does she call to see how her children are doing. And you still continue to date her. That you don't even take into any consideration that what it is that these children are going through in the house by themselves. And then, on top of that, she tried to justify by trying to adultify our son. Oh, well, Ethan is 13. That don't mean nothing. 13 years old, he's still a child. Alyssa is 9, she's still a child. She's still a child. Well, Alyssa's 12 now, so she, but I keep telling you keep saying shit like that, but what have you taught her? What have you taught her? And then she's tried to pass on some of the responsibility to Ethan to do the laundry, and don't even continue to check to make sure that he's doing it properly. Right? I bought him a whole bunch of school uniforms, school pants. He did the laundry and left a pen in his pants pocket, and ink got all over his school pants. So now I got to go buy him new school pants. Right? Near President Department over there. I see you, buddy. I see y'all looking. Look at this dude over here. Look at him over there with the black book bag. Look. I got to do what they do, right? Like I said. Look. See that? Synchronized movement. Exactly what they do. Because I already spotted what it is that he's doing. You see the red vehicle? He comes over there. Right? I can tell you, I know exactly what it is that they're doing. They're not going to get away with it. Right? But anyhow. Okay? And the reason why I got upset tonight, because I've been telling this woman that this is exactly what's going to happen, and she refused to listen. She refused to listen. Right? She refused to listen. And so, now she wants to act surprised. I told her, I told you this was going to happen. Right? So how did I know this? Because again, right? I'm not an ignorant person like I used to be. Okay? And even when I was an ignorant person, when I say ignorant, meaning that I didn't know what I know now. Right? Moving out of that belief system into reality and into knowledge. Right? I still would not leave my child by him or herself. Even on my weekend. And then tried to blame me and tried to say, well, it's because I left. And I'm like, how did I didn't left. I just stopped sleeping over at your house. You cheated. You broke up the relationship after you got your college degree. After I supported you getting your college degree. You cheated. And then you told me I was ass out because you want to start dating your ex now. And she was like, well, you could have still been here. I was like, okay, so what happened to my feelings? What happened to my feelings? I said, you always want me to care about your feelings and care about your issues. But you have yet, from the time that I've met you, to truly, genuinely care about my issue and what I was going through. Right? And I said, look, I'm still here. And I said, I didn't abandon our children. I said, who was leaving their house at 6 o'clock in the morning to come over here to wake the kids up, get them dressed, feed them, and take them to school? Me. Right? Me. So you can't tell me that I abandoned my kids. You abandoned them. You abandoned their educational needs. You abandoned their mental health. You abandoned their physical health. Right? And yet you don't understand. She's like, oh, well, I don't understand why she's there. Yeah, because you don't care. You don't care because you are afraid that to take any sort of accountability and reflection on your behavior, on what it is that you didn't do or what you have done to cause her to become like this also. Right? And I said, and the reason why and then she goes, oh, you micromanage children. I said, Pamela, children need supervision. You have to micromanage your children. As much as when I don't tell them to pick up after themselves, you see, I've done videos on my daughter area, how it looks, and then I'll make her clean it, I'll help her clean it, right? And I come out the next day and she's up all night making a mess again. Why? Because her mother refused to see and understand that the reason why she's like that is because her mother has her whole apartment looking like that. Okay? So here's the thing to that. When you are the most sensible person, when you have common sense and they don't, they will tell you that you have no common sense because you're not putting up with their toxic shit. They will tell you that you're micromanaging because you're trying to create structure, discipline, and order. And they've been conditioned to not want those things, right? And the Sambos over there with the racist New York Caucasian predators, right? They feel that they're part of the crew, right? They feel that they belong. But I keep saying, let his ass be in regular uniform, a crime happening, he runs towards whoever, right? Draws his gun and see if his ass won't get killed. Because the first thing that is, he's a black man with a gun, right? You could have your badge. They don't give a damn. They will shoot first and ask question later. And again, I'm not saying this to say it's already been proven. There have been many times where black police officers are accosted, shot at, even killed, brutalized, right? By the very same people that this Sambo out here, who they get him to target me. You know what I'm saying? So again, how they use us against each other, right? And because the vast majority of black men, right, are not leaders. Not leaders. And when I say leaders, I mean true leaders. Not the puppets they put up there and call you a leader. That's not a leader. They don't want what's best for you. The people that want what's best for you, they will never put them in those positions to make things better for you, right? Because that means that they will no longer be able to exploit you. But as long as they can put the Sambos and the Sambinas out there in front, they can continue to exploit you because they do what is called what? Indirect rule. And again, you can go read the book, The Golden Stool by U.N.E. Smith. You know, the colonial power in Africa, how they created these systems of what is called indirect rule, right? Where you put the figurehead with being the same group of people, the same person or a figurehead leader, and then you get that person to brutalize their people, and sooner or later the people begin to hate that leader or that ruler, and they begin to hate each other because the people working for that leader or ruler is the one that's brutalizing the people. So you got to understand how they create the hatred for us towards each other. We are being used and we continue to be used. And I talk about the technology that they developed, right? And what they'll do is called mystical manipulation. Whereas they will do certain things. So when I got in the house last night, is that the number 32 over there? Oh yeah, look, she's walking away, look. Number 32, what is it? Oh yeah. EW 32737. Hear the sirens? To say the number 3. But yeah, right? It's indirect group. It's getting you to hate people within your own group because the white supremacists know that these people have the ability to be true leaders. Why? Because they love themselves and their people. Whenever a black person wants to do something for black people, they are going to nullify or neutralize that individual. Man or woman, doesn't matter. We are not allowed to want to build things, to see our people move forward in the society. Right? It is the reason why when black people build something and it becomes successful, white people come and they buy it. And the black Sambos will sell that business instead of holding on to it, right? And so they can pass it down to their children so they can have generational wealth and build generational businesses, right? To uplift black people. They're not about that. These Sambos are all about themselves, right? And they feel they have some power over each other because of their religion. They think that they're chosen and special. You know, the saddest thing about my people when I look at is the fact that how we're conditioned to think that because we're fortunate, that somehow God favor those who are fortunate as opposed to those who are not. Right? And the people who are not fortunate are more loyal or more and praise this God even more than the people who are more fortunate. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the, when they use passages like "Blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the earth," right? What do you think that means? What do you think that means? Blessed are the poor, for they shall inherit the earth. Right? First of all, the poor don't inherit anything but the earth. Why? Because when they die, they're buried in the earth. All right? You understand that? You will inherit the earth, meaning that you will be buried in the earth. But while you are alive and poor, your life is about struggle and suffering. All right? So when I talk about the sadistic mindset of religion and religious believers, it is in suffering and making other people suffer is how they are comforted. It is how they feel, it's how they are being comfortable, right? Because you will hear them say shit like, well, my suffering is nothing compared to what Jesus suffered. Like, what kind of shit is that? Like, your ancestors was beaten to death, some of y'all, okay? Those that lived a horrible life for hundreds of years. But you're going to say that what they went through is nothing compared to what Jesus went through. Jesus is a fictional character in a fictional book. Right? So I want you to understand how they disconnect our humanity and our love, our memory of our people. And I talk about how just like how you can breed dogs to become docile, you can breed them to become violent, right? You can do the same thing with human beings. You could do it, and I said become violent, they use the sirens. First of all, they know I'm not a violent person. But I will defend myself violently if I have to. Right? But again, they always create this false narrative, because that's what they do. They lie, they manipulate, they deceive. Right? See, like I said, I don't have to lie. I don't have to lie. When they want to use women, I just go, whenever they want to make their false accusation, I just go to all these news articles about how all these New York Predator Department officers who have been caught sexually assaulting women, right? They are allowed to retire and keep their pension, right? That, some of them have been caught having a relationship with minors. They've been allowed to retire and keep their pension, right? 37 states, or 36 states in America allow for adults to marry minors, right? So again, when they want to use these false narratives, I said, look, America's the land of pedophiles. You look at the elites, right? You're not going to try to use that label on me because I don't do that, right? America is the land of men and women who sexually assault, men and women and boys and girls. I don't do that. You know who does that? These motherfuckers, right? New York Predator Department, right? How many times have we heard about police officers basically manipulating prostitutes into sex, right? And threatening to arrest them if they don't give them, you know what I'm saying? Because they use their position of authority to commit crimes that they know that they can get away with it. Look at them, look at the New York Predator Department. The elbow, sticking out the elbow. Sticking out the elbow. You wanna know why they do that? Because whenever they would do that to me and I would be like, elevate, right? And so now they start doing the elevate. So when they elevate, what are you gonna do? Come and arrest me? Come on, man. I should tell you how sick they are, right? I should tell you how sick they are. See, and here's the thing. Within the police department, they reward bad police officers. The good police officers, they don't reward them. So when I talk about the NY Predator Department, the system of predator law enforcement, and you look at each precinct as an individual with many dark personalities, the psychopathic mindset, This is what I talk about, right? Because they will, you see, good police officers who hold other bad police officers accountable, they don't last long on the police force because that's not who they want, right? They want the vast majority of look at this shit, look at it. Right? They want the vast majority of police officers to be corrupt. Why? Because, you know, when the higher ups is corrupt, everybody around them got to be corrupt. You understand? That's how they protect each other. See, the good cops, they don't want them on the force. It's like they don't want good people in the society. They do, they show you that they're remotely monitoring, because I don't say those things out loud. I say it within my own mind. Oh, by the way, I lost one of my rings. I don't even know where I lost it. So. But I've noticed that they've been staring at my fingers a lot lately. I mean, not a lot lately, but since I'm on my way home. At certain videos, whenever the word weapon is being used, they start using their sirens. I keep saying, if I had that type of personality, it doesn't matter what siren they use, it wouldn't matter. Right? It would not matter. So like I said, Bob Marley says, don't let them fool you, or even try to screw you. Right? They can't deceive me. Manipulate me like they used to. And that's why they do what they do. Also, it's one of the reasons why. Actually, that's a part of the reason guys next week.